Hey everyone, I am so excited to be here. Finally doing an EMA Talks, and it's our first one of the new year, being 2021. And aren't we happy we're in a new year? um, it's a new administration for us at EMA, and so for any of you who haven't watched, EMA Talks is a conversation program between creatives, entertainers such as myself, and insanely talented experts in all sorts of topics dedicated to saving Mother Earth, which I love and think is completely valid. Now, in this particular Emma talk, it's all about innovation, and more specifically, the incredibly innovative Global Change Award winners are who we're talking with. And to those of you who don't know, the Global Change Awards came from H&M's nonprofit foundation, initiated in 2015. And I'm going to read this here as a part of the foundation's focus area Planet. The aim is to speed up the process of finding, supporting, and scaling up disruptive early stage innovations that can make the entire fashion industry circular, which we're super excited and supportive of. And we were actually planning on going to Sweden last year, my home country, to be there and present and honor the 2020 award recipients. But unfortunately, this wonderful pandemic reared its beautiful head and took center stage. So here we are instead, and I am so excited to introduce you to last year's Global Change Award winners of the brand Werewool, which, by the way, I love the name, ladies. Theanne Schiros and Chui-Lian. And by the way, they have some amazing credentials here that I would just like to tell you a little bit about. Theanne Schiros is a co-founder and CSO of Werewool. She directs Werewool's cross-disciplinary research program across the genetic engineering, materials science, and textile engineering. Dr. Schiros holds a PhD in chemical physics and has held fellowships at Stanford and Columbia University for the development and characterization of materials for sustainable energy systems and the circular materials economy, and is currently an assistant professor at the Fashion Industry Institute of Technology and a principal investigator at Columbia's University Materials Research Science and Engineer Center. That's quite a list of amazing credentials there at the end. And then we have Chui-Lian Li, is a co-founder and CEO of Werewool, a fashion biotech company that is developing biodegradable performance textile fibers that support a future where the fashion industry does not have to be synonymous with environmental impact. With a BS in textile development and marketing from the Fashion Institute of Technology and a focus on sustainable textile development, she conducted research on natural dyes and the use of preferred fibers in commercial production. Her diverse experience includes positions at Victor Textiles, Vardis Laboratories, Atlas Textiles, Centric Brands, and Global Brands Group, which have given her insight into the entire textile supply chain. Ladies, it sounds like you have quite the toolbox here to to start this incredible brand. So let me just start by asking a simple question of why the name Werewool? I love this name.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we started out in 2018 and we were doing this bio design challenge, and Stella McCartney asked us to find an alternative to wool, vegan alternative to wool. So that's kind of what started this whole adventure. And in looking into this alternative to wool, we found out that proteins, we like delved into this world of proteins, and we're like, oh my God, proteins are this building block of life, and they self-assemble, and they have all these amazing properties, like waterproof and UV protection, fluorescence, and color. And all of these properties can naturally be found in nature and even in ourselves. So like our skin is stretchy because of a protein called collagen.
Right.
So, I
I've
mean,
heard of that one a few times.
So, Chewy, Morgana, and Valentina, we met at FIT, and they came up to me with this amazing, speculative, playful question: can humans be the new source of wool? And I was like, I mean, maybe. But that playful speculation kind of was the birth of Werewool. We just then the name kind of followed from that. The idea was like, can you, like in your cheek, can you take a cheek sample and look at those proteins and make them self-assemble into a fiber? It was really speculative, but that's how the whole thing was birthed. And since then, we've gone to really see the amazing properties that protein structure offers as an alternative to the toxic and petrochemical based dyes and finishing agents and spandex that is what's on all the performance clothes. So we had this, our vision now is like, keep your eyes peeled for Werewool's biodegradable pink yoga pants that stretch and fit perfectly.
Love that.
That's how it was born, though.
It's such a fantastic name. It's so catchy, and it has so many connotations that we use. Like you just said, it birthed all these questions, and I really love it because I've heard a lot about the synthetic materials that are used now. They just, for people's information, they pellet up, don't they? And they just stay in the water sources it's almost a plastic.
It is a plastic. It's exactly a plastic.
Wearing plastic.
And plastics are oil based, so they love to absorb lots of pollutants and other chemicals, and they never go away. So they just accumulate those chemicals and move them throughout the supply chain. So textile fibers are actually the single leading source of marine microplastic pollution in the world. The single leading source.
As we're all putting our spandex on, trying to get our bodies healthy, we're polluting our environment.
So stretch without plastic would be great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so let me ask this: where do you see sustainability going in the future? I mean, what is your vision for a sustainable future?
Oh, I mean, personally,
personally, I'd love to hear it.
I would love to see a future where sustainable fashion was affordable. And Theanne and I were talking about it earlier. And Theanne, maybe if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you can't buy your way into sustainability. That's not inclusive. Who's that sustainable for? It's like when you talk about, because sustainability has become such a buzzword, it's like sustainable for who? Yeah. If it's not inclusive, and it doesn't especially include in the supply chain marginalized groups that have really suffered from the environmental and ethical impacts of the fashion industry more than other groups, it's not really sustainable. So we were thinking about this question a lot, and I think what we arrived at was, I think what's really fascinating to both Chui and I, because we're both really fascinated with kind of traditional textile processes and natural dyes, cultural heritage, and also the frontiers of biotechnology. So it's not like we love what we're doing. We are super inspired by all the biotech innovations. We think it will play a huge role in a more sustainable future, but there's not a wonder material that's going to fix things. Right. So in addition to like some of these really exciting innovations in biotech, I think we're really excited about seeing waste to resource strategies, both in biotech as feedstocks, and really simple upcycling techniques, just kind of really different models of circularity. There's so many materials that don't have at their end of their useful life, it's just a linear cradle to grave model. So we're really interested both at the high tech level and in a really practical level for upcycling and using waste to resource, of kind of having this sustainable development be inclusive, so it's sustainable for everybody. So it can use local resources, and it can take waste products and put them back in as feedstock for new materials and new products.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to look at it. This is, I mean, your thought process is so what we wish for the world. Absolutely love it. I think the curiosity then comes in, like how, when we think of DNA, we think of our own, it's in living creatures, how does that translate into creating fashion? I mean, that was so fascinating to me, that it was a DNA based sort of fiber that you guys were creating. Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, when we were learning about kind of proteins and DNA, it's like, okay, so DNA is a computer program that teaches organisms to make specific things, or it's like a recipe that cells and organisms follow to create something. So then we learned about the whole field of biotech and how people are using that and using microbes as our raw material factories to create these proteins with function. So we were like, okay, well, if we can create this function using microbes instead of inputs like petrochemicals, livestock, or agriculture, like we can eliminate these toxic inputs and replace it with something that is biodegradable, that is natural, that's inspired by and found in nature, but made in a lab instead. So that's kind of how that translated in our brains from this DNA to fashion, I guess.
Right.
So by programming the DNA of microbes, we now can like think of living cells as the future fiber factories for the fashion industry and the future dye houses for the fashion industry. And if it's not toxic to a living cell, it's not going to be toxic to collections of living cells and ecosystems.
Right.
So that's sort of that's our fascination with it, and where we see like a lot of potential, rapidly renewable resources, that rapidly renewable raw materials that are biodegradable at the end of their life.
Yeah.
But because DNA, like nature has these amazing codes, you could program it to be kind of anything. Is the vision, right?
I love that.
Stretchy, waterproof.
Yeah.
So
I
like
love that. I mean,
a hornet's nest has like wasps. Chui told me this. Wasps have evolved to have their DNA code has evolved to create a protein that makes their nests waterproof. Like, how cool is that?
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, I remember learning that, and I don't know if this is now an urban myth, now I'm questioning myself, but learning that silk was made from caterpillar cocoons or something to do with caterpillars. Is that correct?
So the silkworms expel proteins and
right.
create cocoons. Yeah.
So when you put it all together, it just takes your minds in order to put that all together. When I hear DNA, I don't think of a recipe to make fabrics, So I guess what inspired you guys to focus at the fiber level? There's so many things you can put your scientific minds to. Why this?
I mean, my major is textile development and marketing. And when I was learning about how a fabric's made, it really all starts at the fiber level. Like a fiber is responsible for about 60 to 80% of a product's impact, which is insane because you're like, oh, this little bit of cotton here has such huge implications. And as it goes along the supply chain from becoming a fiber into a yarn that's getting dyed, that's being woven into a fabric, each one of those steps has impact. So where we saw that we had the most potential and where there was a lot of potential for this technology was being able to kind of build those properties in that are reliant on these really extractive and impactful feedstocks in this little fiber that impact can really just grow as it moves down the supply chain.
Love that. Yeah, I heard that. I mean, a pair of jeans takes how many? 250 gallons of water, or more than that, or 1,000. We're in the thousands of gallons, aren't we?
10,000, about 10,000 liters of water.
I couldn't believe that when I heard it. It just blew my mind.
Like a kilogram of cotton is 20,000 liters of water.
Right.
Yeah.
When you think of it in that way, you just go, fashion is really destroying our earth slowly but surely. Not so slowly anymore.
And it isn't, that's not an overstatement.
Yeah.
It is one of the most, because of the amount of materials produced, and often produced and not used and discarded, it is one of the most impactful industries in the world. So kind of change comes with a fiber in a way, because it's the building blocks for all the things we wear. And if they're biodegradable and can be reintegrated into a supply chain or back to the earth as nutrients, we can really minimize those impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And us ladies, we're interested in fashion for the most part. There's, we go shopping. I mean, we all do. I'm not singling out ladies or men. I just think, there's so much fun in doing a day of shopping with your girlfriends, and
people are moved by fashion. There's a culture around fashion, and then that creates a culture. It can create a culture of change. I mean, there is the power of the symbolism and the values that you in your clothes, and also like the care for knowing where they're from and who made them.
Absolutely.
I think that a big thing for Chui and I, like, the fashion industry, it encapsulates the biggest environmental impacts of our linear economy, but it also encapsulates the biggest ethical violations that we have right now in our economy. So it's like a really holistic way to hopefully, like, making a small change will have a big impact in that area is, I think, part of what drives us. That and a lot of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, the curiosity has to be there for sure. But I think this is a wonderful, just people like you ladies just getting innovative and really, again, it just starts one person at a time, one idea at a time, one innovation at a time is really, how it helps. And this is what I love the Global Change Awards, because all of a sudden they uplift all of your wonderful minds and new innovations. Which I'm curious, how has life changed at all since winning the GCAs?
Yeah, I think our community has grown enormously. We have met some of the most interesting, coolest innovators ever, I think, this year through the GCA. I think that's been, my favorite part. But we've also really gained a lot of support. We've been able to learn a lot more about the fashion and textile industry, how we can actually grow beyond a research project and an idea into an actual business. So I think that the Global Change Award was really a game changer for our team. It was really incredible. It's been an incredible year. Despite being at home, it's been like...
It also allowed us to hire a full-time director of R&D, as well as move into our own lab space. And we have a part-time bioengineer. So our team has grown a lot. So our community has grown in general. And I think, as hard as this year has been, I probably speak for the whole team when we're so grateful for the power of community and people helping each other across lines and different challenges and countries and oceans and all, through Zoom or emails. It's been really, I think, inspiring and hopeful sense of hope, because the growing community really is like where I think we can have that paradigm shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you've been able to keep in touch with many of the other innovators from the GCA?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I love how it brings you all together. And where are you guys at in your process right now? Sort of what's your plan? Can I ask that? Is that?
Yeah, totally. We're still really early stage. So we're really, we've been able to kind of make a proof of concept of our fibers. We've been able to kind of retain the color and natural fluorescence, which you can kind of see on the fibers on our website. But it takes a lot to go from these cross-linked biopolymers into something that you can like really use in industrial processes. So we're really working on our fiber composition and refining that this year.
We have created prototype fibers with a range of natural color and fluorescence by protein structure. So microscopic protein structure gives these fibers their color. So we're very excited to see that happen. Now we have to go up the next, we're stepwise.
Sure. And every step, takes a bit more support, I'm sure, but that it's wonderful. I'm just so glad it's so nice to hear that it's, moving forward, upward and onward, and that you've got this community of people now after these awards. I just think it's lovely that we can all support one another and get the news out. I mean, there's so many, knowledge is power, and there's so many people who just don't know. And I think everyone wants to, if they can, be part of, a circular fashion industry. But most of the time, you just don't know when the information isn't out there. And so you go and you create your own same pattern. You go and buy the old same clothes, and you're just supporting a terrible fashion industry that's ruining the environment. So I think it's so nice to be able to talk to women like yourselves who just think differently and come at problems just in the most creative ways. It's really exciting. And just as a curiosity, how do you want to explain a little bit about sort of the process of how you create colors in your fibers and what you use? And I'm still trying to wrap my head around what it looks like in the lab, and how you guys create fiber from nothing.
Yeah. So should I go through our process flow a little bit, and then you can take it how that's going to turn into something what people are more used to seeing. So basically, we'll have a color. So I think we'll identify a color or a set of colors, and we'll find the DNA sequence for it, and we will insert that DNA sequence into a microbe. And that microbe, that part of the DNA sequence tells the microbe every time you reproduce, make this protein with you. And they're like, sure, doesn't cost us much. And you keep them warm and you feed them.
Wow.
And you have these microbial raw material factories. And then you, after you have a certain volume, you you extract the protein from the microbes, like, thank you for the product. And you purify the protein because cells make lots of things so that you have just this protein. And then, so now you've got, thank you, living cells, you've made us this really beautiful, you followed the DNA code and you've made us this color, but this color isn't a fiber. And so from there, we can actually tell the code to like do things to these proteins to help them self-assemble into a fiber, or we can use other green chemistry strategies to turn it into a fiber. But there we're going from, now we're like at the fiber development stage. And so now we follow green chemistry pathways to convert these colored chains into, or blobs, whatever they look like, these little microscopic proteins into a tangible object. And then from there, Chui can maybe talk about next, goals. That's pretty much how we do it, right? Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, that's where we're at. And so
Yeah.
we cross-link these polymers, I guess, I can call them polymers.
Polypeptide chains but sure, they're little proteins, right?
Yeah, and we right now we're at the level where we can extrude them in a lab into a bath, like a wet extrusion process, into filament fiber. So that's
Incredible.
From there.
We test the fibers for their strength and ductility, and we use that information to go back and optimize and kind of tweak how we did it to, give it a little bit more of one property or another. And we iterate, and then we find something that works and we build from there. And then we want to make more colors, and we want to, ultimately, I think what we'd like to do, our first focus is color. It's like color is like vital to the commercial success of anything, and it just moves people. I mean, people respond to color, and there's so many cool organisms that we get inspired by, like how they use proteins to communicate through color or protect themselves. Or, but then from there, once this platform works, you can think about, instead of following a DNA sequence to make a colored protein, you can make a stretchy protein or a waterproofed protein, and we would follow the same sequence.
And have you guys been doing that as well, or mainly focusing on color for now?
Right now, our focus is color.
Great.
It's enough.
Yes, listen, it's blowing my mind already. I wouldn't even know where to begin. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, it's wonderful. I had a question that I just lost right now that I was going to ask you.
I was wondering, Malin, how because you were part of the expert panel for the Global Change Award, right?
Yeah.
How is that? It must have been fun reading about all these innovations.
Oh my God, it's just it makes me question. I always go, why hasn't this been more available? Why has it taken so long for this to happen? And a lot of times it's just, I mean, how many years have you guys been working on this for?
But third
year?
like 2.5.
Because some people have been working on it for years and years and years, and it's hard to find the platforms, and because there's so many platforms that are already taken and that are protected, wildly protected by our governments and by our, by people who are making money off of, let's say, oil, or let's say whatever it is that is not good for the environment. And it's incredible to be part of the inner circle of all these innovations. I wish we could bring all of them to life, because there's not one that isn't beautiful and fascinating. It's just that some feel like they're going to go further than others, and they're a little bit further along. But it makes me feel hope for the future, to be part of that process, to watch all of you guys, and it in the world that we're living in now, where we see so much negative impact. It's just nice to have little snippets of hope and positivity, and knowing that we can, through all these wonderful innovations. I mean, human beings are incredible, and just with you guys, just what you guys just explained, how you're on a molecular level, creating proteins that turn into fabrics is insane and lovely and wonderful, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for the world that we have you.
I guess
But yeah,
humans created this mess, so humans should be able to get us out of it.
you're absolutely right.
Right? It's like
Absolutely.
we invented plastics and synthetic dyes and created this mess. So
Yeah, 100%. It's where you start to question, are we worthy of this planet? What if we
not lately.
not lately, but we will be, because we're coming back, guys. We're doing
Yeah.
it. And I think our children are more and more aware of our planet, and or at least, listen, I may be living in a bubble, with you know I grew up in Sweden and Canada, where they're recycling and composting, and it was all part of sort of your daily routine. There wasn't anything strange about it, and it was talked about, and it was part of what you do. But moving over here to America, depending on where you are, there's different points of views, and then having a child, just seeing the world through their eyes, and sort of my son is now 7 years old, and about to turn 8. And the things that he talks about, I mean, I remember us going into a bathroom when pre-COVID, and I pulled some of the paper out to wipe my hands after washing my hands, and he goes, "Mom, you can't do that. You're killing trees. You just got to dry your hands. You got to air dry them like this." You know, yeah, he tells everyone, never to use paper towel, and not to use straws unless they're compostable. And I didn't know that stuff when I was a kid. And I mean, we were recycling stuff, but all the little things that they're growing up with, um, is wonderful, because it's going to shift the world that we're living in.
Malin, I think we're big fans of you as an actress, and you have an incredible history between music and acting and doing so many different things. But I know, you're also very involved as an environmental activist. And just because you mentioned your son, I wondered, like, did becoming a mom, like, at all affect I mean, growing up in Canada and Sweden, you probably had a pretty environmentally centered worldview, but I wondered if becoming a mom changed your perspective on the world. And
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it became more important. The environment became more important, because all of a sudden I was caring about someone else's future more than my own. And already, what a miracle it is to be able to have a child, and then I'm going to bring up this child in this world. I want to make sure that this world is in a good place. And so, uh, I definitely looked around, just on a personal level, looked around the house and went, all right, what are the things that I'm not being honest about? Even though I've been on this board for over a decade, I had to take a second look and go, all right, what am I not doing that I should be doing? Little things like, I'm not always turning off the light switches when I leave a room. I'm not always unplugging my plugs when I leave the room. Anything that doesn't have a switch on it, you're supposed to unplug, or else you're using electricity. I don't have a compost. I don't have a garden. So all these things I started setting into place and going, all right, these are the things that are going to be our everyday lives, so that my son grows up with that. Now we have a compost. We have, he helps me recycle. He helps me compost. He hates it. He doesn't like composting. He thinks it stinks and it's disgusting, but he understands why. We have solar panels, and we talk about that. We talk about everything that we do. We have a hybrid car, and why we have that, and why we try to take our bicycles everywhere instead of taking the car. And so there's discussions about it every day. And I have to be a living, breathing example of just the little things on a minute level, as well as being part of Emma has been huge in discussing the bigger issues with him, and they discuss it a lot in school as well. But
No pressure, right? As a mom.
No. Well, he thinks it was really funny because I went off and I had to go to an EMA event, and he said, "Mom, why are you going? Why are you going to work?" It was a Saturday, it was a weekend, and I said, "No, I'm not going to work. I'm going to go and help save the environment. I'm going to help the climate change. There's all these wonderful people, and we're all working together to try to save the world." And a few weeks later, he was talking to a friend of his, and he goes, "My mom's a superhero."
Oh,
And he goes, "Yeah, she's out there. She saves the world. She saves the environment." I was like, "All right, we're doing it. We're having an impact here." But for sure, I mean, obviously, we want to. It's that most popular saying, "Children are our future," and they are. And this has it's become a much bigger topic for me. And these past 4 years, we haven't been, the government hasn't really focused on climate as much as we'd like. And so hopefully looking forward, newer bills and laws will be implemented so that we'll have some support in what we're trying to do here.
they keep you honest, right? The little ones.
They
'Cause
really do.
they
Do you
have such a
do you
sense
guys
of
have
fairness.
children as well, or friends with kids, or?
I think my son didn't. I think he wanted, and they use it in a very clever way because he wanted one thing over another thing, and he's like, "All right, mom, that one has palm oil. Do you think about the orangutan?" And it's like, and it's like, so it sinks in, but they're like, okay. And it was mostly, to me, he's a great kid, but he was completely using it to have a different snack.
Sure, just be
But,
manipulative.
yeah, well, like with ecologically informed manipulation.
Right.
So I'll take it. But yeah, they keep you honest, the little guys.
They really do.
One of the first times I met Actionel was at his birthday party, and we brought him a present and we wrapped it in wrapping paper. And I never thought about wrapping paper before, but he saved it. He saved it all. He was the neatest child. He unwrapped this present very neatly, and he handed it to his mom, and he's like, "We can save this for later." And he was like, "Oh, wrapping paper. It's paper. Like what?"
No, I know. It's
We use fabric.
old patterns.
We use fabric. We do fabric and bows. But that's so funny you noticed that, because I don't think I even noticed it. But I remember that was right. It was his 9th birthday.
9. I was just gonna ask, how old was this kid?
Last year, 9.
That's pretty aware. 9 years old. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's a great impact. Let me ask you guys. I also just want to know, just out of curiosity, if there's like an invention or a product, or a process that you wish already existed in sustainable fashion, what would it be? I know you guys have yours, but is there anything else that you?
I would just say ours, because it would save us a lot of work and time.
You don't want it to already exist because you're the ones who are making it.
No, it's okay. We want it to exist. We just want it to exist. It doesn't exist, so we feel compelled to make it. Yes. But I think we'd be. I think that as also innovators and the space we're in, if we wanted something to exist, we would work on it. I mean, I don't, and that doesn't mean. I mean, we're fascinated by a lot of other things that are happening, but I think if it doesn't, either we're admiring someone else doing it, or if it hasn't existed, we're like, let's try it.
Yeah,
personally, right?
That's
I think
amazing to have that power.
Well, we don't have the power. We have there's a fine line between courage and stupidity.
No,
I think it's
there's a fine line, but I think that is what makes you got to go out and you got to try it, and that you guys have the tools to be able to go and try it. Not everyone has the tools. I don't know how to start making protein and making it into fibers.
That said, I think there's a lot of technologies we're very inspired by and excited about.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've been learning so much about new carbon capture technologies to create fibers, like microbes that eat CO2 and turn it into products. And yes. I think H&M's new recycling machine, where they're separating fibers out and turning into a sweater all in one step, is incredible.
It's amazing. That thing's like the Rube Goldberg machine that it's like the foreign coin. It's like a coin machine that doesn't spit out foreign coins. It's like, put it in, make something out of it. Yeah. And that's a huge problem, because mixed materials are a huge problem. Something with 1% spandex, the machines can't handle it, and it becomes unrecyclable. So I think that's a fascinating one. I also think the sort of amplification of Black, Indigenous, people of color voices, and that inclusivity, where there's so many cultures and communities that have historically been rooted in environmental stewardship.
Yeah.
Just make like amplifying those voices. There's so much to learn there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's I think it's like a lot of those frontline communities, they're original stewards of the earth for a very, very long time. So I think from like the very high tech to also very high tech indigenous science, right? It's also very high tech. It's just been around for a really long time. And it's rooted in a symbiotic relationship with the earth that sustains us.
Yeah.
So those are all things I think that kind of we get really excited about. I mean, clothing from thin air, essentially, that pulls carbon dioxide out of the air is pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. There's Iceland for me is such an inspiration as a place, because they've just kind of nailed it when it comes to environment, and they pull carbon from the air and make it into, I think they pull it in and calcify it underground, so it just I mean, some of their innovations over there, it doesn't have to do the fashion, but it's just completely, it's sort of, it's 100% sustainable. Their place of living is just, they don't emit any carbon anymore. I mean, they've just nailed it. I can't remember what documentary it was that I was watching, but but you look across the pond, and like you said, you look at the indigenous people, and you look at all these voices that we don't hear enough from, because they've all been silenced by bigger corporations who monopolize everything. So it's really fun to be able to chat with innovators like yourselves and bring forward voices, and that is sort of what we're hoping to do with these EMA Talks, is just bringing to light so that people know that there's hope, and that there are people behind in the shadows of the big corporations who are working really hard and making the world turn in a different direction. So it's exciting. I love it.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thank you guys for bringing this to light, for birthing this wonderful Werewool. It's I cannot wait. I want to be
strange and beautiful chimera that is Werewool.
Yes, I can't wait. I want to be first in line to wear your spandex to my next Pilates class when the world opens up.
We're working on it, Malin. We're working on it.
All right.
Well,
Well,
thank you so much. It's been so lovely to talk to you. Thank you for having us on and sharing our story.
thank you, ladies,
Well,
so much.
stay hopeful.
Congratulations on winning the award, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future and following your journey. Is there anything you wanted to share with the viewers before we go that I haven't touched on?
No, but reach out, say hello, hello@werewool.bio. Say hello. We love community. If you have
Yeah.
questions or, yeah, so I think just to share our information, our Instagram is @werewool, website werewool.bio, so you can find us.
And it's spelled W-E-R-E.
Yeah,
W-O-O-L.
like a WEREWOOL.
Oh, yes.
That sounded, all right.
You guys are wonderful. Thank you for, making a beautiful path for our future, the kids of the future. What was it, that saying that this land is just borrowed?
Yeah, you don't inherit it. We don't inherit the earth. We borrow it from our grandchildren.
That's right.
So we're
So
going to borrow it well, hopefully.
you
Do
really
better.
are. The two of you are wonderful, your whole company, and I'm so excited, and congratulations. And
Thank you so
for
much.
taking the time.